What up, though? This is Thomas of Dollar Store Cinema, and I'm back to review Redemption, the Stan Tookie Williams story. This is a television movie that was made a little bit over 20 years ago, and it's starring Jamie Foxx as Tookie. And I remember seeing this a long time ago, and just off the random, I thought about this movie again, and it was uploaded on YouTube a couple times, and so I was like, no better time than the present. Let me watch this again, and I just finished it. Fire, absolutely unbelievable. It's amazing. Everybody played their position, and I love Jamie Foxx as an actor, but I think originally what made me excited was that Lee Thompson Young was in this movie. I know him from The Famous Jet Jackson, and that was one of my favorite shows. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be Silverstone. Um, and so it's just dope seeing this movie again because, again, even though it was a television movie, everybody treated it like the award winning film that it was. You know what I'm saying? It was directed by Vondi Curtis Hall, who was both an actor who got nominated for an Emmy and then ended up directing a couple episodes from ER, which is what he got nominated for the Emmy for. And then later on, he directed a couple TV movies. But the production level and the how do you say it, like taste level was on point off rip. It's crazy because sometimes people have negative views on television movies, maybe thinking like, oh, this isn't as prestigious or this isn't going to be as good as a film you can get actually shown in the theater, but this is not that. Me personally, I love television movies like when they're good. I think about TLC's. They had a Lifetime original movie made about them, Crazy Sexy Cool, and Lil Mama did her thing as Left Eye. I really feel like she should have won some awards for that. And I think about Spike Lee directed a television movie. It was a Huey P. Newton one with Roger Smith as Huey P. Newton. That was the bomb. It was like a almost a pro shot, but like more creative in the way they did it from the Broadway show that Roger wrote. And like obviously you got bad television movies like that Dumpster Fire that was the Aaliyah Lifetime movie produced by Wendy Williams. Like that was trash. But I feel like television movies in general, especially now with this renaissance of television, and television movie doesn't necessarily equal bad. And we're getting more artists and people, entertainers, telling their stories. Like I loved the New Edition story, and then later on the Bobby Brown story with BET, and those were more a mini series like how we had back in the day with the Jacksons and American Dream and the Temptations. But yeah, this movie was amazing. It covered Jamie Foxx as Tookie, and it is set up in a cool way where sometimes you'll run into the problem where they say like show don't tell, but in these interview segments with Barbara Becknell, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, it allows the world to open up through flashbacks and overlays of Tookie's story as a young kid from Louisiana and then having to grow up in the hard streets of California, and how out of that necessity of protection, whether from the cops or other people in their neighborhood, they began to form alliances. And he's one of the creators of the Crips. And it's crazy. Like, his story is phenomenal to the point where he got nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize while he was on death row. And then the next year after that, he got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for literature. And I think he got it like 4 times nomination. And they still kept Tookie locked up and denied his appeals. I personally have strong feelings about the carceral system that America is in. I disagree with the death penalty strongly. I believe that a person's life is extremely valuable. And if prison is about reforming, which I don't believe it is, but if it is for real, you have a story where Tookie is somebody who founded the Crips and then turned around to commit his life to stopping gang warfare and encouraging peace. And they still kept him incarcerated and ended up killing him by lethal injection back in '05. And so it's a really ugly mirror to society, showing what people in the system deems valuable, what is more important. Is just a bad situation all around. I was looking up the production of this movie, and it was actually not shot in LA, but all of the filming took place in Toronto, except for one day in South Central and a half day in San Fran. And I was I was thinking about it, and I was just like, I know that people, maybe because of like tax breaks or whatever, shoot in Toronto versus like location. And apparently for LA, I thought Toronto was mainly used as a cover for New York, but yeah.
Okay, I have a cold, so we're gonna sound real special for this. So the main reason a film would shoot in Canada instead of the US is due to costs. In Canada, there is an entertainment tax, where in the US, some states will offer like a low entertainment tax. That's why a lot of films get shoot in Georgia. And for that reason, a lot of places in Canada already have wonderful studios set up, just like you would have a lot of great studios set up in Georgia. But Canada, being a country and not a state, is much more versatile in terms of its landscape. So you have rolling hills, you have mountains, you have beaches, you have just flatlands, and you can portray a lot of cities, such as the fact that Suits was filmed in Toronto to cover for New York. New York is extremely expensive to film in, and so more likely than not, if you think you're looking at New York, except for like a wide shot or a landscape shot, you are most likely filming in a completely different city. So no, that's just the main reason. It's mostly costs, along with the entertainment tax. You can hire, there's a lot of incentives to hire locals, especially for extras. So there's also that. But yeah, I believe the main reason is for money purposes. It's going to cost a lot to have your cast and crew in New York City, where it would be cheaper to have them in like Toronto or Quebec. But that's why once again, a lot of places also shoot in Georgia, a little bit cheaper than some of those bigger cities like LA and New York. But that was one other reason I saw as a reason to shoot in Canada, but the main one being the note, entertainment taxes. But yeah, I think if you're ever wondering why aren't they shooting on location. It could also just be New York, especially for New York City. It is effing hard to shut down portions of that city for a film shoot. I had a friend who lived in New Orleans when they shut it down for the first Captain Marvel, and she said it was insane. So I can't imagine trying to do that in the actual New York City. So yeah. So Canada, that's where people go to film things, especially go to film New York City, especially Toronto. There's actually a joke about it in Scott Pilgrim, that you film all your New York City scenes in Toronto.
This is interesting because it's a a look at Jamie Foxx right before he really, really, really blows up. Like he had the Jamie Foxx show, which is legendary, and like years before that he did In Living Color, which was more comedic. But him doing Bodini Brown, um, in Ali in 2001, working with Michael Mann, that showed he had that depth. And then apparently around the same time, um, he was doing Collateral, which he got nominated for an Oscar for in '04. Um, so instead of dropping out of Redemption, he stayed, and the shooting schedule was changed to like accommodate him. And you can tell um, the strict time limits they had to make this movie. It was shot in 38 days, which is very fast. Um, but I respect it because it it shows the skill is there, no matter um, what platform or what level of money you're working with. You know what I'm saying? Um, and to be honest, I I would put this movie over another favorite of mine, which is Bamboozled. Um, it might be my second favorite Spike Lee joint. And that movie was actually shown in theaters, and that was that was shot using a prosumer camera, a Sony VX1000, and then converted to film format. So it went from mini DV to film, and that allowed like budget to go drastically down, but you can tell like the quality isn't there yet. And so like even though this film was shot and shown in theaters with Bamboozled, you actually have Redemption, which is a TV movie with FX, which had a higher, I don't want to say taste level, but a higher skill when it came to the quality of the camera. Um, and so, yeah, it's fascinating to me because this movie is phenomenal and one of the best movies I've seen, especially in this Dollar Store Cinema um, podcast, but just in general. I love this movie. Y'all should check it out. Lynn Whitfield did her thing as Barbara, and Jamie Foxx is always great, and he did his thing as Tookie, and like really, you could really tell he paid attention because he has that soft speaking demeanor, just like how Tookie did. And he was actually pretty brolic for the movie, and Tookie had a famous, um, I don't want to say body of work, but like he was known for knocking people out and his physique being on point. And at first, I was like, oh man, he looked sort of small in the flashbacks. Jamie, I mean, when like Tookie was on the streets doing his thing, but when he was in prison, there's a scene where he's having a nightmare where he's without his clothes, and then you can just really see that Jamie went to work on them weights, and I was like, man, so he did a great job. So special shout out to everybody. Terrence Blanchard, speaking of Spike Lee, he did the music. Who uh, also did the music for Bamboozled and Malcolm X and so many other Spike Lee joints. Um, yeah, rest in peace, Lee Thompson Young. Rest in peace, Tookie Williams. Free, free to jails, yo. I I don't believe that caging a person is the way to go, period.